Alright. Story time in Claglorn. Summerset Scrolls. Entrivals Recounting. What nightmares! I cannot close my eyes but see terror in the darkness of dreams. A lurid grotesqueries stalk beyond the ring of my mind's candlelight, striking when I cannot keep among the waking any longer. I have tried all methods for calming my thoughts: meditation, hypnosis, honeyberry tea. But the moment I slip into sleep, I am once more assailed by the terrors that await me there. In a moment of desperation, I turn to my quill. In writing what I see in dream, I hope that I may expel the darkness I see at night. In dream, I sit on gentle shore of Arteum, where waves from the endless ether lap at sand. The sun sits low and red in the sky, almost mocking me with tranquility. Then, from the sea erupts a creature, gigantic, corrupted with the parasites and spawn of the ocean's resources, that makes its way to shore, leaving a foam of crimson in its wake. All the water around it turns black, all the fish die, all the wind and roar is quieted. Its 5 heads break and bite one another, crying with their dissonant voices. And despite the perverse nodding and writhing of its heads, the creature still plods forward, sowing destruction as it does. One of the heads is little more than rotting flesh and bone, but it's just rotting flesh and bone. And even as it roars, I see the bottom feeders of the ocean depths feasting on its putrid flesh. With this very roar, the dead tremble and dance, puppets on strings before its unholy power. Its second head bore pustules and pox scars and bulbous blisters of fluid that glowed in crimson and shield. These would burst, oozing their contents into one another, and these horrible concoctions would hiss and sputter, burn and smoke. The others would lap this foul fluid with glee and dismay. A third head was black as night without stars, as onyx in a windowless room, and darker still were its eyes, pulling the shadows made long by the sun into a shroud of pure darkness. The fourth head was obscure to me. I could not discern these features. But the last, the fifth head, so terrible it was to behold, for it was several times the size of the others. By screeching, only would the others tremble and quail their frightening. This massive head was little more than a ring of teeth seated upon, which was A terrible brain, a loathsome mortal thing, its wrinkles and folds, adulating in a sinister and nauseating series of pulses. Strands of ichor and bile seeped from its fleshy recesses, as barnacles and polyps that fixed to its surface seemed to gasp for want of air. Then the creatures' heads turned their attention to me. I was frozen, am frozen, and will always be frozen by the eyes raking over me. And worse still is the song they sang, in unison, a ruinous cacophony. Kitora and Garza, Pecorhen Samaha, Ulvorcus waits, Ulvorcus wakes. Kitora and Garza, Pecorhen Samaha. And at the apex of this terrible verse, as the sun gave way to terrible night, I would see the outline on a distant horizon, a mountain forming from the sea and falling into the water. From this peak were more creatures, and too many to count and too horrible to name. And they're coming. They're coming for us. And when the sun goes down completely, I wake up screaming in terror. Yes, O Lord, the end. The Summerset scroll. Entrivals Recounting. But I encourage you to read. But it's good for your mind. Sunlight trapped in water for me. The Tale of Sarah Bane, first read. Music, epic, adventurous. Gather round and hear the tale of Archmage Sarah Bane. Through his mercy and his might, he stopped the Thracian plague. A war was the only way to stop the plague. The plague at hand. So Sarah Bane called for aid all throughout the land. Oh Sarah Bane, ye mere godly faith. Oh Sarah Bane, the youngest of the eighth. Men and Mer took up the call. They knew they could not fail. Together they combined might. The old flag's navy sailed, with Bendu Olu at his side, slinging sword and spell. Sarah Bane beat back the tide. The Coral Kingdom fell. A good mare remember well the Archmage Sarah Bane. For when the dark times came to pass, he knew to ask for aid. Oh, Sir Bane, oh, Sir Bane, ye mare of godly fate, oh, Sir Bane, oh, Sir Bane, the youngest of the eight. You saw lore, the tale of Sir Bane, the end. Ye saw lore, words and power. By Tellinger, the artificer. Artificer? Sounds about right. Our languages in Tamriel more than a convenient means of communication. Throughout my studies, particularly in my ongoing research of the mysterious ruin stones, a theme of language explicitly interconnected with magic has surfaced with frequency that cannot be ignored. Is the very act of casting ideas into words and is the idea of casting is the very act of casting ideas into words and evocation. I present here evidence that may just support this admittedly radical position, which I hope to the Sapiarch of the Crystal Tower will be enticed to I don't like this book at all.
No, thank you. I'll just wait here. Someone's bound to show up eventually.
I'm gonna read something else. I don't like this one. It's not very interesting to me. Let us begin with the ruins and enchanting. I don't think so. Nah, that's it for the good books on that. Journals. Thirsty. Drink some smoke. Oh yes, there's a beautiful book here. This one right here. Everybody should read this one. A tale forever told. A tale forever told. The Sylvanar walked with eyes open across Valenwood, his heart torn from his primal aspects, was an empty pit. From the wild came a Bosmer unlike any other. Her eyes were of fire, hair of wind and rain, and all who gazed upon her quaked in fear, all except the Sylvanar. Though she bared her fangs, he did not shy away. Though she sought to lose him in the underbrush, the vines parted for him to follow. She growled, filled with confused desires, wishing both to stay and to leave. In a bright clearing, she faced the Sylvanar and ripped at him with claws and teeth. Though he fended off her blows, still his blood had soaked into the grass. And the flowers, and they wept. Her rage spent, the Green Lady finally stepped back and addressed the Sylvanar. Why do you follow me? You are not one of us. She spat upon the ground, her fist still clenched, stained with his blood. But I am of you, the Sylvanar quietly said. Come, let me open your eyes to the green singing. Curious, the Green Lady came to the Sylvanar. Long did they stare unspeaking, until they warmed to union. The forest shuddered, as spirit and body became one. With its touch, she saw the dance of frond and leaf, and learned the way of the wilds of Valenwood. His emptiness filled with her passion, and his nameless longing waned. Their union both tamed the wild and invigorated the greenery. The white night of reeds is so lore, a tale forever told. The end. I love that book. So good. Tales of Tamriel, a tale forever told. That is where you can find that lore book and read it yourself. But life is so short, it's so bright. But it's better to burn out than never to burn at all. Exploded in creation. Feel the wind as I spread my wings. just try my throat. ESO lore. Amalexia and the Mud Crab. A traditional Dunmer tale. There was once a mud crab who suffered much. He had a limp and a hacking cough. There was once a mud crab who suffered much. He had a limp and a hacking cough. His shell was misshapen, causing him pain. He was weary at all times and told everyone he was surely dying. He roamed the valley one day, complaining to any who would listen. The shock created a brace from part of his shell and offered it to the mud crab. Here, mud crab, try bracing your leg, he advised. No, 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 said the mud crab. I have tried that, and it doesn't work. It does not work. Mud crab, said the elite. Let me bite on your shell and crack it. Just a bit to relieve the pressure. Just to relieve some pressure. The mud crab said, you are trying to trick me, elite. You just want an easy snack. Almalexia, who was roaming the land that day, heard these conversations and entered the valley, where she appeared as a humble guar. Mud crab, she said, take this draught I have made for your cough. Take this draught that I have made for your cough. Guar, you are not a healer. It is better to suffer than risk a poor remedy, replied the mud crab. And Almalexia revealed herself to the creatures, who gasped in surprise. Mud crab, she said, all these creatures have offered you help, but you refuse. All these
And what exactly am I
creatures
supposed to do with
have
the wagon
offered
full
you
of goods
help,
and no one
but
to
you
buy them,
refuse. You are in love with complaining,
huh? I have a standing order with those
and you
strange warriors
will
at the
never
Ramisov
be
sword
healed.
school. Someone usually comes to pick it up,
And
they haven't shown
so
up this month.
Almalexia
I'm going to
teaches
lose my
us
shirt here. If they don't pick up their
that you
order,
cannot
I don't get
aid
paid.
the willing, and you cannot fix that
You
which is
cart the
not
goods up
broken.
a road that's crawling with
That
sand
makes more
warriors
sense
and
to
wild
me.
creatures?
But
To a
that is the
school where
end.
they lob off the heads of the unworthy? No, thank you. I'll just
Almalexia
wait here.
teaches us that you
Someone's
cannot
bound to show up
aid
eventually.
the unwilling. You cannot fix what is not broken. And sometimes it is hard to help those who cannot and will not help themselves. Become strong. Read more. ESO lore. Almalexia and the Mud Crab. The end. Black Reach, never heard of this. cheese of Skyrim. What? What is that? Oh my god. Who wrote a book on cheese for Skyrim? Are you kidding me? I'll have to read this. CBD for my throat is a lot better than this sativa stuff. Lemon shit, bro. Alright, so apparently there's a book on cheese about Skyrim. I guess I'm gonna have to read this. ESO lore. Cheeses of Skyrim by Hajalmarj Hafinga. At the behest of my correspondents, I have made great efforts to restrict the contents of my travel journal so as to not lose my readers' interest. In touring the halls of Skyrim, I wasn't sure through what lens I should present my travels. After a pompous and sumptuous meal at the start of my journey, I knew it must be food, and thus my catalog of Skyrim's cheese was born. The land is diverse, as are its climes, and both mean and panoply of cheese are vast. Again, for the sake of brevity, I sought to capture only the most noteworthy cheese. I thought to capture only the most noteworthy of cheese from each hold I visited. Damn. Okay, here we go. B. Green shade. Greenage is a festive cheese, which I found to be rather peculiar due to the dour reputation, odor I should say, of Ajalmarch, and in particular its capital of Morthal. The name of the cheese derived from the charming baskets, for there can be no other word for it, of rushes plucked from nearby bogs and woven together. Speaks to both its visual appeal and process of its creation. The cheese is brined and pressed within the baskets, with the latter process imbuing the rind of the normally cream-colored cheese with a verdant hue. The way the locals eat the cheese is also curious, but it's so curious to me. The consumption of greenage, customarily served at the end of a feast, has become something of a spectacle. Young hunters make a game of holding the rushed encased cheese over a flaming torch until its casing burns away, and the cheese transforms into a near molten state. Observers laud the veterans of this ordeal for the showmanship They add to this feat dancing, the highly combustible cheese along the torch flame without pausing too long, lest the cheese blacken and your fingers burn. Thus prepared, they flip the hot cheese onto a table and guests immediately plunge bread or occasionally sliced apples into the melted goodness. Children find particular joy in the activity, for at this point the cheese's secret contents are revealed. Dried fruits and berries, and in wealthier households, a single ember plum. The lucky eater that spears the plum before all others is named king of the feast. Solitude, Adar. The greatest of the cheeses in Skyrim, in my opinion, is Solitude Adar. Not because of its flavor or bizarre nature, but for its extreme rarity. Solitude Adar is, as the name implies, an Adar cheese. Being aged and inoculated with the spores of some fungus, and like Adar, it's underground. In the vaults below ancient city. But here, the similarities to regular Adar end. That's where the similarities to regular Adar end, but that's the end of it. First, the source. Solitude Adar is a masterful translation of Western Skyrim staunch, not to be confused with squanching. Traditionalism to the practice of cheese making, and this starts with the milk. But it always starts with the milk, but you gotta have the best. Only cows that belonged to the herd of Jarl Svatar, first king of Western Skyrim. First king of Western Skyrim can provide milk for the cheese. The royal herd descended from these cows is maintained by loyal retainers. Milk arrives regularly in Solitude, where it undergoes inspection by a royal cheesemonger, a hereditary office within the Blue Palace. This connoisseur of dairy has exacting standards for the milk he inspects. Indeed, for I have seen him, and only one out of every dozen barrels, only one out of every dozen barrels is deemed fit for the making of Solitude Adar. Yes, but it's the best cheese ever. The milk curdles in precise fashion, using a series of hourglasses custom made for the purpose. Lastly, they add a crumb of cheese from the previous batch into the next one. Yes. They add a crumb of cheese from the previous batch into the next one, thus creating an unbroken chain of Adar dating
And what
back
exactly am I supposed to do with a wagon full
generations.
of goods and no
The
one to buy them,
result,
huh?
the result is, as I am
I
led
have a standing
to
order with those
understand,
strange warriors at the Rotting
a
Saw Sword School.
cheese
Someone usually comes to pick it up, but they have this much.
that has the
I'm going to lose
precise
my shirt. If they
appearance,
don't pick up their order, I don't get paid.
aroma, and taste
You cart the goods
as it
up a road
had
that's crawling with
Estvatar's
sand warriors and wild
day.
creatures? To a school where they
I
lop
was
off the heads of the
skeptical,
unworthy?
and
No,
I,
thank you.
and
I'll just wait
I
here.
was given
Someone's bound to
two,
show up eventually.
two pieces of the cheese, one preserved from decades ago, and one only recently cut from its rind. I was instructed to sample both and see if I could tell the difference. I tell you, I could not, and I wept as the flavor awakened me. He is so lower. The White Knight reads. Jesus, it was Jesus of Skyrim. A marriage, a finger. Yes, it was good. That was fun. That was fun. That's a good book right there. You motherfuckers, you need to go find that book and read it. I don't even know where I found that book. That was a good book. I like that book. I should go somewhere else and go read that book actually. Very nice, very nice. Oh no. Charge. Power. Really, man? I got you. Oh, I don't have my charger. Music is power. Sound waves, they feed me. Pero dicen de que la música es poder. Yo quiero más. Okay. And that is the end for story time for Claglor. Read more. So much more. He's so lower, so much more.